Hello YouTubers, what is up? Simon here. Welcome to HannaTalk. Today I'm chatting with another special guest. She's a voice actress who's voiced across so many anime as over her entire career, who's best known as the voice as Mai Tokiha from My-HIME, Fiona from the Zoids franchise, and has also played a variety of characters across the Gundam franchise. Please welcome Carol Ann Day. Carol, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
That's no problem at all. It's great to talk to you.
It's good to talk to you as well.
That's great.
It's always really cool talking with people across overseas.
It certainly
So,
is. The feeling's mutual.
so go ahead.
The feeling's mutual.
Cheers.
Anyway, on to the first question. How did you get started in acting?
I actually lucked out. I began in theater when I was quite young. Basically starting with children's theater because I was a child at the time, and moving up into musical theater, into operettas. But I actually lucked into an audition for a voice studio when I was 14 years old, and that's basically how Zoids happened.
And has being in the musical theater background like kind of helped helped you into the voiceover business because a lot of people have spoken about like in the voice acting world, people don't realize that a lot of physicality goes into voiceover work because you're not just using the voice, you're using your entire body as well. Has the theater background kind of helped you in that sense?
I would say absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, theater kind of teaches you how to move your body, how your body moves in space, and what sounds and feelings are usually associated with those types of movements. So when you're looking at something like anime or a cartoon, you can be like, oh, the character's doing this with their arm, which would kind of sound like this, or it would feel like this. And then I do believe that there's a certain musicality to what we do with written language. We're not singing the words so much when you're voicing a show, but there is a musicality towards the where you place your intonation and so on and so forth in a line.
That's definitely true, and you're absolutely right about that. And with regards to your character in Fiona from Zoids,
Yeah.
as you spoke about her, Zoids, of course, was one of my favorite anime shows back then,
Yay!
and still is. And how did you end up getting the role of Fiona, and what was it like playing in the Zoids franchise?
Fiona was really, really cool. She was actually my very first lead role that I'd ever had. So I think I had voiced two kind of bit parts in shows previous to that. But a little known fact, I was actually only 14 when I voiced Fiona. So it was sort of a brand new thing for me, and it was really neat to have a character that went through, who basically got to grow up over the course of the show, because it really sort of pushes you to like expand yourself. But the audition process was pretty straightforward. I just kind of went in, did my thing, and luckily I was cute enough to get the part at the time.
That, that's fantastic. And were you much of a like anime cartoon lover growing up before you started before you got into like acting and such?
I would say I was, but I don't think I knew I was at the time. I mean, I grew up sort of watching Samurai Pizza Cats and Sailor Moon, and my brother was a huge fan of Pokemon, so I had that sort of background going into it. But I just associated those as cartoons. So I was pretty green going into the anime industry, but I've grown up there essentially, so it's very very near and dear to my heart.
That's definitely true. And of course, I'm speaking about myself. I'm a huge anime fan myself, and like a lot of those series, like Pokemon and all those kind of series you mentioned about, like yeah, they're really special to me, and still a lover of anime even in my age now. So, and
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's such a cool genre. There's so much. It's such a distinct genre in that you have these big, sort of sweeping, epic shots. There's so much magic and intrigue, and like I'm in love with the art style for the majority of the shows. There's just so much animation and imagination that goes into the creation of them.
that's definitely true, and that's one of the beautiful things about anime is that the animation's so beautiful, and it really takes you into places that you never find in like Western animation or in live action for that matter. It
Absolutely, it's so distinct.
Absolutely, that is so so true. And after, of course, like you did with Zoids, one of the roles that actually struck out to me the most actually was you played in the Dragon Ball series,
I did.
but this was the Blue Water Studios version. How did you get started in the Dragon Ball franchise, and what was it like playing in like one of the most popular franchises of all time?
It was actually amazing and so much fun. I really really love our dub, and I'm sure most people are familiar with the difference between the Blue Water dub and the Funimation dub. But ours basically ran on Canada and the UK on television about 10 years ago.
Wow.
And so I played Chi Chi in that dub, and it was really really cool. You don't often get to play, the wife of anime royalty. It's not an everyday thing. But Chi Chi was so much fun. Just a really kind of kick-ass chick.
She definitely is. And speaking about myself as like an absolute lover for Dragon Ball, for the
Yeah.
entire Dragon Ball series and such, and I love both versions for very different reasons. And were you
Mm.
familiar a lot with the Funimation version that much? Like after you
I
did,
have. Oh, sorry, am I familiar with it?
oh yeah, were you familiar with the Funimation dub like before or after you did the Blue Water Studios version of Dragon Ball?
I became familiar with Funimation. Like, I think I actually didn't see the Funimation dub of Dragon Ball until just a couple of years ago.
Wow.
Just for the sake of it, I was like, I feel like now is a good time. I should probably see this one day. I think Cynthia Krantz, who is Chi Chi in the Funimation dub, is absolutely amazing.
She is absolutely
So
fantastic.
hats off. Yeah.
And look, and of course, there have been a lot of anime shows over the years that have gone through several redubs and such. Like Pokemon's the best example, One Piece is the best
Mhm.
example, and also the Dragon Ball series as well. Have you often got like like comparisons from from anybody about like between the versions that you did with Blue Water and the versions that Funimation had done? Did you get like any comparison from that at all?
Always, always. Yeah. So as far as Dragon Ball goes, I know. I know. I think Behind the Voice Actors has voice compares for a lot of the different versions.
Hmm.
But I think fans of a show are just sort of naturally inclined to look at all their different options in terms of what's available. What do I like the very best? And so absolutely, we're going to get compared to each other and to the Japanese version all the time. You just kind of get used to it after a while.
That's absolutely true. And for me, like a lover of like any sort of anime shows, I love both versions for very different reasons and such. And in
Mm.
fact, I did an interview with Tara Sands, who did the voice of Bulbasaur from the Pokemon series,
Yeah,
and
she's
several.
fantastic.
Yeah, she's absolutely fantastic and such a really funny lady and a very nice woman indeed. And she also voiced Mokuba in the Yu-Gi-Oh series. And in fact, I spoke to her about this same sort of thing about like how anime shows that like all the anime shows that she's voiced over the years, like One Piece, Pokemon, they've gone through several redubs themselves. And I said I love both versions for very different reasons, and it's just a matter of personal opinion. But which
Absolutely, and I've always viewed each different show because you've got the Japanese, and then maybe you've got the Canadian dub, and then maybe you've got the American dub, and a Korean dub, and a Spanish dub. And I've always looked at each show as sort of a separate entity, as a different show on its own. Something that you can't. I choose not to compare them back and forth between each other because I think each one does sort of hold its own magic in a different way.
Absolutely. And did you ever get the chance to like meet any of the cast from the Funimation version of Dragon Ball Z at any point?
I'm trying to think. I have met Christopher Sabat, who is just an amazing dude.
Oh, he's
Really, really
fantastic.
fun. But I think he might be the only one that I've met from that, just because they are based out of Texas and we are, of course, Canadian. So there's a little bit less overlap in conventions.
Right. And as you spoke about with like a lot of the shows that you voiced with like Dragon Ball Z and the versions that you voiced in, You voiced a lot of the work you did was based in Canada and such. But did you ever get to do any voice work outside of Canada?
No, I've actually I've had the chance to travel outside of Canada for conventions. Actually, I'm voicing the character Misaki Tokura in Cardfight Vanguard right now, and the company Bushi Road, who produces that show, has given me and a couple of my coworkers a chance to travel overseas to promote that show. But aside from that, the majority of my work has been done here in Alberta.
Fantastic.
So yeah, a little bit through Alberta, and we do have our parent studio in Vancouver, so we will sometimes do work from Calgary for Vancouver.
That's fantastic. And as you mentioned with the voice, the show that you're working on now, Cardfight Vanguard, as
Yes.
Misaki, how did you end up getting the role, and what has it been like playing this character?
Um, she's amazing. But essentially, any character that you get is as straightforward as we get the audition call. They send us some sides, we go in, we read, and the client chooses who they want to voice the character. So I guess I did a good job. The client liked me, and so we're on season 6 now,
Wow,
which is really cool.
that's fantastic, and hope it goes and continues to go really well for you.
Cheers.
That's
Yeah,
not.
it's a really fun show. I've tried to play the game. I'm not terribly good at it, but nothing but mad respect for people who are.
Were you ever much of a video game lover yourself, or have you ever played video games before?
Yeah, no, I absolutely was a huge video game fan. But unfortunately, I couldn't figure out the double joystick. That was bigger than me. I'm a smart girl, but man alive. So I think PlayStation was where my video game knowledge ended. Uh, yeah. But fingers crossed on the YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel coming up. Myself and my good friend Lucas will be doing some Let's Plays of Mega Man and Inuyasha games that we were lucky enough to voice.
Oh, fantastic! That's
It
amazing.
might be a hot mess. I don't
That's the beauty about video games, is you just get lost in the experience.
know. Exactly.
And speaking about, of course, with you mentioned about your YouTube channel, how did you end up
Yeah.
starting that?
It was really kind of a cool experience. One of my fellow voice actors, Lucas Gilbertson, who some people might know from the Mega Man Command Mission series in the Mega Man X franchise, is Zero. Him and I actually started working at the studio at the age of 14, so we've known each other now for about 15 years, and we've done a lot of conventions together, and we just kind of got together one day and said, well, you draw pictures and I draw pictures. Let's try and animate those, and so we did, and so we've created this really unique platform where we create cartoons and music, and we blog. We create stories for other people. We create stories for ourselves, and it's actually just been really fun. It's a really great sort of playground for a bunch of animation nerds like us.
That's fantastic. And as you mentioned with the video game franchise, you also played in like the Mobile Fighter G Gundam series, and in the video games
Yeah.
itself, you also played in a couple of the Gundam games as well. How different did it feel for you to voice in video games compared to doing like anime?
Ah, video games are a whole different beast, and they're really fun, and I've always found them quite liberating. Because rather than having sort of a set script like you would with anime, so with anime, basically each line is time coded out based on where their mouth is moving in the show, and we make our words fit with that. With video games, essentially you'll get a page of 10 getting punched reactions in a row. So you just kind of go through and it's and you go through and you do that, and then you move on to your witty comeback reacts and your getting defeated reacts, and it's just basically going through it one sound at a time, as opposed to voicing a whole story, but it ends up being a whole story. It's really fun. It's a slightly different medium, but it's still really fun to do.
That's fantastic, and it definitely sounds like it is. And you voiced a couple of the Gundam series in the video games and in the anime series. Were you familiar
Yeah.
with Gundam before you started?
I definitely heard of Gundam. I remember I was so excited because I landed the role of Allenby in G Gundam, I think the same year that I ended up voicing Fiona. And I was so unbelievably stoked to be voicing a character in a series that I knew was really, really, really cool and really highly thought of. And then a couple of years, it might have been a year or two later, we ended up doing the voice work for Zeta Gundam as well. And again, I ended up with a really cool character in that series. So it's really, really fun. Gundam always sort of has this slightly dark edge to it, which is really it's really a cool opportunity because you get to explore so many different layers with a character. I think Allenby in particular, just having that berserker chip flipped on all the time and just screaming for hours and hours on end. Just a totally different experience from something like Zoids, where there was quite a bit less screaming, from what I recall.
I'm definitely very familiar with the Gundam series, and it was definitely quite a bit of a dark series. It depends on really which series I think you've watched anyway. I mean, I've watched like the original Gundam series, and I think there was Gundam Seed afterwards, which had
Yep.
Matt Hill as the main hero, and several others in that. So it has kind of gone back and forth. But yeah, I see what you mean. It's definitely had a much more serious tone to the series than any other anime series I've seen. But that's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. But I think that's probably the great thing is that it pushes you into playing roles that you've never thought you'd play.
Oh, absolutely, and it's fun. And again, like I take it back to Allenby, and I know there's a scene in that where she's fighting Domo and she gets her chip flipped on, and that was literally 45 minutes of nothing but screaming for me in the studio. So it was blood curdling scream, and then in pain scream, and chip turned on scream after scream after scream, and you leave the booth just feeling so liberated. Like, I can pretty much handle everything at this point. As long as I don't get electrocuted, I'm good.
And when would these recording sessions for the usually happen during the day? Would they happen like at I don't know 6 o'clock in the morning or something? Because that's
Oh, thank God. Our studio doesn't usually, I think the first session of the day is usually about 10 a.m. And our sessions, we don't tend to book them longer than about 4 hours at a time. Yeah, especially when you're doing a show like that, you don't want to fatigue your voice too much. But then again, there's a lot of technique that goes into that amount of screaming as well. So, yeah, it just really depends on the show.
I imagine. And and has there ever been a moment in the studio for you where you actually did kind of end up like blowing your voice out?
I passed out once.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
I completely. Actually, I believe it was. It might have been the very last episode of Zoids. As it turns out, I learned in the studio that day that I have low blood pressure. But I actually fainted right into the TV.
Oh my God.
Passed completely out. Yeah, that's
That,
good. As far as blowing my voice out, no, I've always been very lucky. But again, if you're going to do a lot of screaming, or if you're doing a character who's got quite a gravelly voice, you learn the techniques and the things that you need to do to kind of help yourself through that, and to not damage your voice while you're doing so.
that's definitely true. And one of the other roles that you also notable for was the My-HIME series as Mai Tokiha.
Yeah.
How did
Yes.
how did you end up getting to voice the character, and what was it like playing that sort of character?
I'm such a huge fan of the My-HIME series. It was again, it was a typical audition call. So I went in, I auditioned for Mai, and then I auditioned for a couple of other characters as well. And then voicing the series was really cool because I think at the studio we'd come out of a long period of doing a lot of action, we did Dragon Ball, we did Gundam, we did a lot of different action series. We'd just done Mega Man as well, and so to go into My-HIME, which was a sort of female superhero driven show, a lot of dialogue, and a really heavy sort of emotional storyline. It was really cool because again, you get to sort of flip out of that, like, I'm in a giant fighting robot, and now I'm like, oh no, I'm a 16-year-old girl who's got a lot of emotions. So it's really fun to play those kind of huge dichotomies. This is the bonus of or the pluses, one of the pluses of being a voice actor.
Definitely true.
Also, I mean, pet dragon can't really argue with how awesome that is.
That's fantastic. And aside from being a voice actor, you're also like a musician as well, with your own
Yeah.
band, Bellwether. Was the music part of your life happening before you started voice acting, or during, or after?
Well, music I find evolves so much. So, I started in musical theater. I've always been a fan of singing. I picked up a guitar one day. I learned how to play that. I picked up a sitar another time. I learned how to play that. I joined I joined forces with another theater friend of mine, and started Bellwether, which is pretty much not making too much music right now, but here and there we do like to get together and jam. And now for Hermit Sherpa, I know I do record songs periodically with friends, just for fun. I feel like um, when you're an artist, when you're creative, I think it's so important to just do all of the things that make you feel creative. If you need to draw pictures, if you need to sing songs, if you wanna rap, if you wanna do sidewalk chalk art, if you need to skateboard or parkour, or whatever it is that makes you feel creative and amazing, then you should do it.
That's absolutely fantastic, and that's definitely true. And for me, I'm a musician myself,
Oh,
and
fantastic!
yeah, and definitely I try to get involved in a lot of stuff that just explores the creative side of things. And you're absolutely right about that. Get involved in a lot of stuff that explores creativity as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's huge, and things like that do fuel you in other areas of your life. Like I said, I mean, I feel like voice acting itself is a lot like singing, because you're moving through it, and you're moving different words up in your register and down in your register, and all over the place, and it all kind of feeds back into itself.
That's definitely true. And with all the roles that you've done over your whole career, what has been the
Hmm.
one role that has resonated with you the most and you feel like you could relate to as a person?
Hmm. That is a good question. I know. Um, Mai Tokiha from My-HIME was always one of my absolute favorites, because she just got kind of put through the ringer in that series. There was a lot of ups and downs. Not that I'm up and down all the time, but we've all been there. Um, Fiona, of course, has always been so big for me, because she was one of my very very first characters, and I felt like as a 14-year-old, kind of new to the industry, and you've got this ancient Zoidian who's just waking up and kind of experiencing things. That was a really cool learning platform for me. Um, and then, of course, I'm always partial to the characters that I'm voicing currently, because I've spent so much time voicing them recently. So Misaki from Cardfight is, again, another really cool character who's kind of grown. She's come through tragedy, and has ended up being this sort of very mature adult in the show, which is it's really fun to be able to follow a character's progression that far.
That's fantastic. And with and aside from Cardfight Vanguard,
Yeah.
any other current or upcoming projects for you in the future without getting into any spoilers?
Of course. I think currently right now, we did a couple of seasons of Future Card Buddy Fight, which are seeable on YouTube. They're mostly Japanese dub now, but we did the couple of seasons in English first. You can find me in the LBX franchise as Marie Yamano, so Van's mother. And aside from that, I do have a couple projects under NDA right now that I can't talk about particularly much. But if you are interested in kind of chilling with me, following what I'm doing right now, hermitsherpa.com or youtube.com/hermitsherpa is a good place to sort of see upcoming projects.
Awesome. And definitely find links for those in the bottom of the description. And final question, what
Yeah.
advice would you give to anyone who wants to make it in the business?
What advice would I give? I do get that question quite a lot. Um, so first and foremost, it is possible to do it, but make sure you do your research about what the job is before you start. Because do know that, I mean, a lot of your work isn't going to be just cartoons. You're going to be doing a lot of radio stuff as well. And then for anyone brand new to the industry, I always say, go to some workshops first. Get comfortable with the mic. Learn to network with people. And workshops will also allow you to play with your own voice a little bit, find out where your range is. But aside from that, if voice acting moves you, then know that it definitely is possible to do as a career, but that it will take a little bit of work. So don't let that dissuade you from pursuing it. But instead use your passion and use your creativity to fuel you forward in the industry.
That's fantastic advice. Caroline Day, thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor to talk to you.
It's my pleasure, Simon. Thank you so much for having me.
That's no problem at all. And guys, if you'd like to find out more about Caroline Day, you can check her out on the links that she mentioned before, with links down below in the description. And don't forget to check out my official website at simomuso.wordspace, which you'll find down below, as well as follow me on both Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe down below to HannaTalk, and also subscribe to Simon Hanna Music, which you'll find down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is Simon, signing off.